Cozy.
So cozy. So that's like right in my face. How do you guys feel? How do you two feel? All right. Are we good to go?
I think so.
Okay, ta-da. Stop it. Stop moving. Oh, I wonder if it's this. It is this. I'll fix it later. So, guys, I'm annoyed. Welcome to From Cicero To Home, the podcast celebrating the fine art program at J. Sterling Morton High School, Berwyn, and Cicero. I am Lisa Duray, and my co-host is Kathleen Fisher. We are current and former fine art teachers for District 201. And with us today is Michelle Valle, class of 2014, Morton West. And Michelle is now currently working for Oak Park Commerce, correct?
Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce.
So we'll be talking with her about her journey into where she is right now, starting with her youth and the path that she took in order to get there. So do you have a place that you'd like to start, or do you want me to lead you in?
Yes.
Well,
lead us into the darkness.
Okay. All right.
For the light.
I like to begin with a few things that I remember about you as a student, and then we can go into what you remember about the program. Michelle, like many of our students, was very, very funny, very creative, and always this like very bubbly personality. Created beautiful work, habitually late.
Oh yeah. Hey, some things stay the same.
Yeah? Is that still a thing for you?
Continued into
Oh yeah, definitely chronically always late. But to be fair, I heard that is related to ADHD stuff and all that, which I am not professionally diagnosed, but I'm like, maybe I should be, so I can start using that as an excuse, right, to help me a little.
It's because of my ADHD, guys.
Yeah.
I remember where you sat in the room. I feel like I remember seeing you against where there was the chalkboard and the windows, and you were facing towards the door. Is that accurate?
Yes. And then, like, you're talking about within the actual classroom, right? Because I know, like, in the later years, I was in that extended part.
Yeah.
In the little bench area, which I very much love because I made that my little home. I had a little chia plant I made from a seed from a bottle that I totally forgot about. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a plant mother. I have to take care of this thing.
Yes. I forgot about that, but yes, now I remember. So cute.
Yes. So.
Okay. Do you remember any of the other kids in the class, or?
I do. Yes. I just saw Lisa, who we sat with there as well, at Cheesecake Factory. I believe she's a server there. So I don't really keep in touch with any of the people from there, but I mean, I'm still friendly with them. Like, I'm sure if I saw them, I'd be like, oh my God, how are you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, for as long as I can remember, you did have pink hair. Was it pink in high school?
It was pink.
Okay.
It wasn't all pink, but like, yeah, it did have like some parts that I had it. I had an ombre at one point. So people like are surprised that like I don't choose another color. Like, there was this one lady who like I love telling the story because it's so funny. Like, she's like, oh my God, is your hair pink for breast cancer awareness? And I was like, no, but I should say that, I guess. that's a thing. So yeah, you're right.
And it's so easy to spot you.
Mm-hmm.
I love running into you at FFC.
Yeah, I can't get away with murder. So.
No, like the health club. Sometimes I see her there, and I'll just be like,
That's true. For the yoga classes and stuff, right? Is that what you normally?
Yeah, I'm so into yoga now. It's like I used to do weight training also. I see you weight training. Yeah. And that's a very healthy habit. But
yeah, but you've always done, like, I remember when we were younger that when I was in high school, you were in yoga and stuff like that.
I practiced Bikram a lot. Okay. So it was maybe once or twice a week at that point, and now I practice every day. Oh, wow. And it's not just Bikram. In fact, I don't even like using that term anymore.
Is Bikram the heat yoga? I don't know Bikram.
He had a specific sequence, and there's Ashtanga has a specific sequence that was the same every single time, and practiced in 105 degrees with, I think it's like 40% humidity or 70% humidity. I can't remember which. Wow. But he's also a predator, and so a lot of people have pulled away from associating with him. So, in the way that, sometimes gurus go that way of
For
like,
sure, yeah.
I'd like to pull you into yoga. This would be a great time to tell this story, and I know this is about you, but I really feel like I just want to share this story.
Oh, please.
That happened last week, and I'm still feeling kind of a high from it. I got certified to teach yoga.
Amazing.
About 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, late congratulations. Yeah. That's a recent thing.
Thank you. And I started a yoga club at East. And during COVID, it was really popular. I think a lot of the teachers came because of, closed gyms, etc. But at any rate, last semester, the girls wrestling coach contacted me. We have a girls wrestling team now.
Very cool. Wow.
Isn't it great? Yeah. And he said that he'd been reading in different places that yoga can help wrestling teams, and University of Iowa, I think he referenced as having found yoga to be beneficial to the team. So he asked if I would share a practice with the girls, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I got excited about it because these are athletes, and they're wrestlers, so they must be strong. And it was just this really great feeling to be in a room with this many very strong young girls. They caught on like that. And when I threw challenges at them, they were just totally up for it. There were no excuses. They just went for it. And there's, in the beginning, you do these sun salutations and warm up the body, and then some of the balancing poses and warrior stances. And they were looking super strong. And we got down to the mat, and I did a bridge pose and demonstrated. And then I watched them do it. And there were some really strong bridge poses and super strong, flexible back bends. So they came down, and I looked at them and said, we can do bridge again, but I think you all are ready for wheel. Do you want to try wheel? It's an actual back bend. And at least half of them were like, yes. So I gave them, did my due diligence and showed them exact proper formation and talked it through. And as I was coming down, my hips didn't even hit the mat before they were all popping up. And I've never really seen that. Like, it could be a struggle to get up into full wheel. And I just looked around, and I caught eyes with the coach, who was sitting back looking at it too. And we just smiled at each other, like, look at these girls. It just was like this. I'm so happy for women in the way that our culture is supporting, women's involvement in things like this that they just didn't used to be a part of.
I can't believe Morton has a women's wrestling.
Yes. Yes.
It's just wonderful.
There were enough girls interested in it that they were like, well, we got to make a team out of it now.
That's cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback that a little bit, a friend of mine, Diana, who actually, her first child that she got pregnant in high school, she's now, like, I think 12 at this point, and she's half part-time cheerleader, part-time wrestler in Brookfield School District. Okay. Yeah. So just goes to show, like kind of what you're saying is, it's so weird now that those sort of like cliche like groups and stuff like that, and like you would assume that there might have been like a barrier for you to like be welcomed by these
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers, because they'll be like, oh, that's not strength and that's not cool and stuff like that. It's totally like disappearing or like blurring a little bit, where that's not really like how people think anymore. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Do you see any other changes like that happening, like a positive sense of change in the community?
I would say so. I feel really lucky to be in, like, from what I've noticed, in folks really appreciating living artists, for instance. I don't feel like that was as common as it was previously. And especially folks wanting to really cheerlead folks that are like local artists, right? Like they don't really see it as like a competition, or like not a feeling like bitter towards it, because someone's actually like really trying hard at something that's scary and new and whatnot. So it is really fulfilling to see like folks just rallying behind folk like others who are doing something that takes a lot of courage. So
yeah, great. So from your high school experience, how did you find your way into, I keep forgetting how you say commerce, the Department of Commerce. What did you?
Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. I don't really know. I think that it was one of the, because I didn't really, I had done some art already for the Berwyn Public Library when I was there. And honestly, that was just kind of through conversation of like them initiating like a open dialogue of like, what are the skills that you really want to develop, and how can we, contribute towards that? So that was where I had, the skill set of already, doing like art critiques and stuff like that in high school, that I applied towards volunteers who were actually painting on our walls in the teen room. That was some work that, because I had volunteers who were partially just trying to fulfill their hours for their honor society, and others who were actually court ordered. And it was so nice to be able to have that experience with students who have very different walks of life, and both have a passion for art and the way that it drives them and what they kind of leave from that experience. So without that experience in high school, I wouldn't have been able to, have that opportunity available for me. So
excellent.
Yeah,
it's good to hear. So it started with the library experience, and then from there you went to.
From there, I was actually considering to be a librarian and was going to get my master's and stuff like that with all of it, but the pandemic happened, and like everybody else, it kind of really was difficult, and I was kind of just focused in like thinking about wanting to have a full-time job and just leaving. So I kind of accepted that that wasn't going to be possible at the time. So I ended up being like going to a school district and being a secretary for like a year, until I went to the Berwyn Development Corporation, where I became a chamber coordinator. Yeah.
And what does a chamber coordinator do?
It's just like someone who does administration work and like helps with like event coordinating, so that small business owners can like mingle at like networking events, and just having a supporting role in that.
So you must be really good at managing your time and organization.
Definitely, yeah. I think they saw, since I didn't have that direct experience with working in a chamber previously, I feel that they saw that I was in school and taking my courses at Morton College. By that point, I was part of the, it's like a fancy word, like a president's advisory school committee thing, where like they chose like top performing students to meet with the school president. And so they had students come in quarterly or something like that to kind of talk about how they can improve the school for everyone and all that sort of thing. So I think from having that helped me show that I took myself very seriously, because they're like, you're kind of like really young to be working at a chamber of commerce. And I'm like, well, I don't know.
I mean, how else do you get experience except by doing it?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Now, how long ago was the library and then the...
I think I left the library at 2017, and then by the time I was at the Berwyn Development Corporation, I think that was like 2 or 3 years afterwards, give or take.
I mean, these are very adult roles to be taking on at a young age. But I think I remember that also about you as a high school student. Like, late or not, you were very responsible about getting your stuff done. Like you got it done. And just in having conversations with you in critique, I felt like you had a maturity and a way of communicating that I think is important in dealing with the public.
Yeah, it was super important. Like, I think I didn't appreciate it at the time when we were doing those weekly critiques of like, it's Friday again. I have to like try to not exactly defend my piece, but like, you know, in a way, yes, right? Like in a way to like let people know where my thought process is at, right? Whether it's finished or not, why I think this certain decision I made for it made sense for the assignment that we were trying to do. All of that were like important skills that I didn't, you know, realize until much later on. So, and to be fair also is that art and high school was the only time I did get to see that professionalism for myself, because I didn't feel like I had that opportunity in other classes. Like I wasn't doing well. I was not the best student at all. So having like a little opportunity within that whole day to have something to look forward to educationally, like it was really nice and kind of pushed me to reconsider and then go to college, because I did take a break after graduating, because I was like, I am not doing that again, and paying for it, no. Right. So yeah.
You went right to Morton College after that then?
I waited like a year, almost 2 years or something like that, and then and that's when I like found a love for like education. I was like, oh my god, this is like really cool. Like it's really cool to see how passionate like professors can be, and like really want to like spend the time to mentor you and to direct you towards resources that are available to you, right? Because where we at is a lot of them are Hispanic serving institutes, and so we have a lot of great advantages to that we should, you know, pursue and see if we're able to accept them. And that's where like scholarships came in and all that sort of thing. So
yeah. I think I remember you traveling. Was it Alaska, or where did you go?
I usually try to go to Alaska once a year, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years or something like that. That's kind of always been like my dream to live there. So when I had the opportunity to go the first time, I was just like, okay, well, I have to keep going. So
what do you love about it? What brings you there?
Was the opportunity through a program, or did you just say, come to Alaska?
Yeah, and honestly, it only started because my cousin, she lives in Japan. And outside of high school, I went there for a month to travel because I was like, well, she lives there, right? So all I need to do is pay for this really expensive ticket and have, you know, an opportunity to explore and go outside of my comfort zone. And that's what it made it feel more obtainable to go to Alaska. So I didn't have anything. It was just me and my husband to do that. But for me, it's the mountains, it's the greenery, it's the ruggedness. Like you can really feel like the Americana, I guess you could say, culture when you're there. People are just so welcoming, and they just, if like for instance you get stuck in the snow, like you can just go to the house closest to it and they'll dig you out, right? Like they're just very like community driven, even though spatially like people are pretty far apart.
Yeah.
And I just can appreciate like a place where being active and just really loving Mother Nature is appreciated. So
Can you see yourself eventually living there?
I am demanding it.
Yeah.
I'm demanding. I keep telling my husband, I'm like, that is the place where I see a lot of, I just see myself settling in. I think Bob Ross even said it himself, right? A lot of his paintings are because of his time in the military in Alaska.
Having never been there, what is the place that you could see yourself most settled in Alaska?
I would have to say Girdwood. It is a very cute little ski resort town. It's maybe like 30 minutes out of Anchorage, which is like the main city in the States. And it's really cool because in Girdwood you can really see the rainforest of what it is. Because it's like mossy.
Yeah, you don't really think of Alaska as a rainforest.
Yeah, but you can see the moss, on the trees, and how swampy it kind of looks and stuff like that. And
Fisher, you have to go to Alaska. It sounds like her photography is all about this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's my favorite too. So yes, you would love that. It is really cute and like very just hippie, hippie dippy.
Oh my gosh, we have to go. We have to plan a trip.
Yeah, it is so fun. Like there's so many local shops that people will do whatever they can to keep them alive. Like that have been there for years and stuff like that. So it just really resonates really well with me and what I love.
Did you in your travels get down to the islands down
on the Homer Spit? Yes.
A friend of mine's sister was married to the Episcopal minister of Sitka.
Oh, no, I haven't gone that down. No, but Sitka I hear is beautiful.
And you can only get there by boat or plane. There's no road to get there.
Oh.
And can I throw in a quick story, a Morton story that you... Back when Lisa and I, back in the day at Morton, they used to hire corporations or something to come in and you remember TQE, like a different, maybe you weren't even there yet.
Just keep going. It might come to me.
Well, they would come up with a newfangled sort of teaching.
Always.
Something.
Yeah.
And then they would hire, there would be consultants and they would tell us why this is going to work. And it made no sense for Morton. It was just, like it probably was even too much for a school like New Trier. Or, but... Okay. And this guy, we were in the little theater, and there was an after-school meeting, and this guy was up there droning on about what a success this TQE program was in Sitka, Alaska.
Wow.
And after listening to this for quite a while, I raised my hand. Any questions? The guy said, and I said, I'm just curious why you would think something that works in Sitka, Alaska, where there's no road and it's only boat or plane. And my friend teaches at the high school and there's 280 kids. I'm just wondering why you think that's going to work in Cicero at Morton East. And he said, leave.
Oh my God. I wasn't expecting that.
And I went, what? And he said, you heard me, leave. And so all the teachers are picking up my stuff.
Oh my God.
And I left.
Wow.
And the only person who followed me she's Helen Kelsitz. She was a 6'3" coach.
Wow.
And she said, I'm leaving.
I'm sorry, you challenged me, so my answer to that is that I won't deal with you any further.
And it was like one of those things I was almost, it was embarrassing. It was like I was in shock.
For him.
And then, then at the end of it, teachers were coming up and going, oh, we're so glad you said that. I said,
well, where was my support then?
Yeah.
Why didn't you back me up?
It's a valid question.
But anyway, that's my connection with Sitka.
Sitka.
Because it looks so cool.
It does. It's actually, if you ever watched The Proposal.
The Proposal.
Sitka, Alaska. Yeah.
It's like a movie set.
I don't think I've seen it then. Well, to hear you talk about it, it sounds beautiful, and now I want to go.
What a wonderful thing that you have, not only a goal, but a vision that will take place.
An adventurous spirit, too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get the chance to travel a lot unless it was to Mexico. So when I got older, I was like, well, I know 2 places I for sure want to go. So it was nice that everything that I hoped Alaska would be, it is. It really is the last frontier. I mean, it's as wild as it gets. It's quite terrifying, but I guess that's what makes it so cool. So, yeah.
Do you read often? Do you like reading books, novels, or?
Not as much as I should, because I can't help but to like gravitate towards like nonfiction because I feel like I have a lot that I need to learn. But the last book I picked up for the book table, rest in peace.
Oh, I know. Crushing. A very lovely bookstore in Oak Park. Yeah, it's gone now.
It's been like 25 years, and then now they've closed the doors.
Yeah.
Super sad. But the last book I got from them was about the housing crisis in LA, and hard to read, but very informative.
Yeah, okay. Now, Fisher, you might be familiar with the author James Michener. Okay, so Michener was my father's favorite author. And he writes books that are like this thick.
Oh, man.
And they're about places, and Alaska's one of them, and it's on my list for this summer because last summer I listened to Hawaii. That was one of his favorite Michener books. Yeah, I wish I'd read them before he died, but whatever. I'm making the connection now, and he spoke very highly of Alaska too. I mean, he goes all the way back to the beginning of time.
They are chock full of historical facts that he makes fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds worthwhile. I mean, it's only 75 years old as a state, so it's...
Gosh, yeah.
Which is my age.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you.
Celebrating Alaska. Look at that.
Yeah, it's very young.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Can I ask a couple? Go in. Since I'm coming from, not having a history, this is a question that has come up in previous, but I find it fascinating. About when did you realize you had artistic talent, or that even if you didn't feel you had talent, you knew you had an interest? And part 2 of that is what we asked before. I have a friend who asks everybody what was their favorite thing to do when they were 10 years old. And I'll give you her example for herself. She does the books. She just retired, but she does the books and all the medical stuff for the Teamsters. She loves ledgers. She loves, spreadsheets and, and she said the first thing she bought with her own money when she was 10 years old was a cash register. And my first thing I ever bought with my own money was oil pastels. And, my husband bought a brownie camera, little black and white, or a little plastic gray camera.
The first thing I bought with my own money?
At 10 when you were young.
10,
or that you wanted.
It was probably candy, sadly. But what I was doing was making mud pies and potions of weird, disgusting things in my bedroom with my mom's perfume and like baby powder and stuff.
That must have upsetted her.
Oh, yeah. She found her Chanel No. 5 and was like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm making potions."
I'm making it so much better, Mom. You don't understand.
She's like, "What are these potions?"
Now she wants to smell nice. She has like a little green stain. It's slime that she has to put on instead of spray.
It's so pretty, though. It's such a pretty green.
I don't know what I bought at that age. I feel like it's probably something similar. Or, you know what? My dad, he would give me like a $5 allowance whenever we would go to the flea market on Sundays at the Swamporama. And we would dig for old art brushes and little like supplies and stuff like that because you can find some really good gold in there.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because like, unfortunately, some people who don't have a loved one to clean their belongings, there are a lot of people, they would get paid to just totally empty out a home. And so it would be kind of like, I feel like that's where I was developing empathy and stuff when I would see like a social security card or like a thing of like family photos. And I'm like, I was just hoping to find some like art brushes for a deal, you know what I mean? Some Winsor Newton.
Instead, you get your heart broken.
Yes.
Some Winsor Newton.
Yeah. Like I was just looking for a deal. I was just trying to think of, poor Paul Schmidt. 342. Mary Lane.
Those are the first 3 numbers of my social security number. Thank you very much.
I was just trying to make up an address.
Those are legit the first 3 numbers of my SS.
And what are the rest?
Yeah, right?
Oh, be careful.
Everyone pay attention now. Write this down.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there was the second question. You said, I knew around second grade, we had to do a like report on dinosaurs or something like that. And we had to like put like the fun facts about it and like whatever reading, because we had a little like library within the classroom, and then like also show some sort of like visual thing with it. I did not care to like read about how high they were or what they eat. I was just really focused on making a really cool T-Rex or something it was. And like, I was pretty proud of it because I was like, I don't know how, but I was using the book cover as reference to like kind of figure out, and I don't know where I learned that from. I really don't have an idea because my parents, they're artistic, but not in that way, in like drawing or anything like that. But then when like kids were like crowding around, they're like, "Whoa, that's pretty good." I was like, "Oh, I could do this," and like get praise. It's history for me.
It's the start.
Yeah. Get that rush, you know?
I think that's a very common thread that we're finding. For me, it was dinosaurs too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, the one that stands up, T-Rex and the Brontosaurus, and I still have the drawings. They're crayon drawings on like disintegrating newsprint.
That's so
and I was
cool.
so proud of them. And when I look at them now, I'm like,
yeah,
they look nothing like a dinosaur.
Yeah. At the time, I was like, "Oh, this is so anatomically correct," and then I'm sure if I were to look at it, I'd be like, "What is that?" Ooh.
Did you have Mr. A, Lisa? Was she your only art teacher, or did you have others?
I did have others. I was really fortunate to have parents that wanted to encourage me to do art, which is like not the same experience that I hear from other folks. So at one point I did have, how old was I? I think it was right before high school. A woman, a local artist in Pilsen, actually, right on 18th Street. She had her own studio, and he had heard about her, and so he wanted to give private lessons from her. And it was like a really bad experience, I would say.
Oh no.
She didn't like, from the way I interpret, right? I mean, I'm a child at that time. How supportive my parents were about it. They're like, "Oh, she's super good. Like, why don't you show her to do this?" And I would show her my drawings and stuff. And then when we finally had a chance, like, to have our one-on-one, she's like, "You're really not that good. You need to like humble yourself." And I'm just like,
okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it just goes to show like how experiences with like adults and the way that they can really mold how someone's direction towards, you know, things that they enjoy and they find fulfilling. Thankfully, I had enough self-autonomy to be like, you know what, I don't like this lady and how she's like doing this and stuff like that, because I could have totally seen that as an experience of like, I'm not touching anything anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Keep that.
I know, it's really
bad.
weird. It was a really weird experience.
Did you tell your parents, or was it just something you kind of?
I did.
Okay.
And like, thankfully, I didn't tell them exactly what it was, but they just kind of asked me like, "So how was it for you? Like, what did you think?" Like, because it's a lot of money, right, to do something like that. And they just wanted, he's like, "I don't care what it is. I just want to make sure you find what you're looking for." And I'm like, her style, I don't like. She is a great artist, but she's not something that I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to be like able to do what she does," you know? So I didn't find her inspiring enough to see her as the leadership that I'm looking for and the guidance I'm like hoping for. But then as well as I didn't feel comfortable, right? I didn't feel comfortable where I can't even fail, right? So they're like, you don't have to go back. So that was really nice that I had that with my parents, because who would have known if I was forced?
Kudos to your parents. That's
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
pretty wonderful story.
Yeah. It was a hard thing to like remember and reflect on, but now as like I'm older, I'm like I see it so differently now, and I'm able to, obviously see it through my lens as an adult, and to too bad there's no closure, right? But at least there was, like, as soon as it started, it ended, right?
Yeah.
So
I've heard some people say too, there's never any closure. You can say the things you always wish you wanted to say or whatever, but there's no closure. The closure comes from like inside, right?
totally, yeah, and just like accepting it and just like whatever.
Mm-hmm. So going from there, we've also noticed that there are often times in an artist's life where they're considering, is this the path that I want to take? Do I want to continue to become an artist, or should I, stay a secretary?
Right.
Like,
Or should you wait for the shooting star that has shown up to tell you what to do from a previous interview?
Yes.
Do you have something like that?
Oh yeah, I think that's why my route, like I feel like I'm kind of like a late bloomer as an artist. Like I always knew I wanted to pursue it, but it was since my parents didn't have that pressure on me, I put that pressure on myself, where I should focus on something that is going to give me money of like math or science or something like that, right? So I really did try to apply myself towards like doing psychology or something like that. But every time, like comparing that to when I would have an art class, like the way I felt about it, right? The anxiety that was just vanishing, and the way that I felt capable of like doing the assignments in art and stuff like that was completely different to, forcing every fiber of my being to get my math work done in college, right? And that was the same thing with when I was at the library. Even though I was doing some sort of clerical work and stuff like that, I still had that fulfilling feeling when I was working with students in doing workshops with teens, doing art, and then like supervising them and giving them direction with the murals and stuff like that. So that was nice, and I didn't realize until I was a school secretary where I was like, I am dying inside. Like this is not going to be possible for me. Like I have to find my way where art is alive in my everyday life, in my career, or I just don't know how I can see myself continuing to do like a 9 to 5 or anything like that. So
it sounds to me like you have always been very in touch with your feelings and listening to your intuition and your gut.
And seriously, wise beyond your years.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, the fact that the art teacher on Pilsen didn't get the best of you at that tender age is unusual and wonderful.
Like it sounds like you listen to yourself and we're like, well, this doesn't feel good coming from her. Yeah. I know it feels good to make art in this situation, but not with her. Yeah. And these are things in education now. One of the things that I am all for is teaching students social emotional learning, because we're very lacking in that area, a lot of us. And if our parents were not good at teaching it, then it's up to us to try and help to nurture that. And a big part of it is listening to your gut.
Absolutely.
I've been out of teaching for 20 years. So tell me, do they actually promote this at?
Yes. Can
you explain it to me? Because I would have loved that.
Right. Yeah. It's just all about understanding your emotions and your feelings, understanding that these are just feelings. It's not who we are. Totally. And that we can control our feelings and help, learn from them, use them to help guide us, but not let our feelings overcome us or, destroy a certain path. Like we see adults now with anger issues and anxiety, and our students have been the amount of anxiety is growing in our youth.
Yeah.
And although we are asked to promote social emotional learning, I don't think a lot of teachers have a lot of skills in that area to help guide students through it. So it's difficult, but it is something the school asks us to try and tap into. And we have different techniques and technology that helps us. I use an app a lot. I
have an app for you that I would love to share that I think your students would love.
Okay.
So I will be sure to share that with you.
I don't think I was doing meditations with... You were? Was I? Okay.
I very much enjoyed that. Great. I will say, though, to your note, it's kind of nice that art kind of overlaps a little bit more naturally with that sort of...
It's very mindful practice, I think.
Yeah, and it can be very much intentional, so that's nice. I don't know how it's for the algebra teachers, but if they figure out a way.
Yeah. It can be difficult, but there are opportunities, and to other teachers' credit, if you are not practicing it yourself, it's really difficult for you to try and introduce to students. Definitely. So if you've never meditated, it's kind of hard to say, hey, you should, maybe try a little breathing exercise with your kids now and then. Totally. They don't know what to do. Yeah. And since studying it and practicing it along with yoga, I think I have a little bit,
an expertise.
Like it's my thing too. Yeah, I really love it. I love throwing them into a meditation and literally feeling the energy of the room calm down, even after taking just 3 deep breaths together, after spending 5 minutes just focusing on your breath and your body. It's really a lovely experience. I like to share it with them.
I think it's funny that a lot of students thought it would be just a nice time and like a way to like trick the teacher of like, I'm going to take a nap and stuff like that. But in reality, it's like, yes, take this opportunity to be as mindful as you can, right? Yeah. If that means that it's kind of hard to process whatever's going on right now and you need to like shut down, that is still giving you emotional regulation that you don't realize.
If you want to take a nap, take a nap. Yeah. If that's what you think is going to be the best thing for you right now, then go ahead, take a 5-minute nap.
Yeah. So I do remember those and appreciate them because I feel like sometimes like when you're in high school and especially like towards the junior and senior years, like it is such like clockwork, right? That it's nice to have a chance and like the opportunity to slow down a little bit, right? And to feel like, okay, you're like a human being and deadlines are deadlines, but you need to be able to pace yourself in order to be successful.
And, teenagers, they can't be trusted with running their own lives just yet. So if I'm there saying, well, this is what we're going to do every Friday in the beginning of class, then I feel like it's something good for them, whether they realize it or not. So I'm glad you appreciated that. I feel like I'm feeling a stutter in the podcast. The moment. Oh, you know what I wanted to mention? You continue to produce as an artist. Like it seems like you kind of have your hands in several different pots. Like I like to point out the mural that you did over here on Lake Street in Oak Park. Yes. And I've seen that you have created some murals in different business spaces.
Right.
Where is this? Because I'll pass it on the way home.
South Boulevard and Oak Park Avenue. Well, I guess it's like in between East Avenue and Oak Park.
It's just east of here. So if you take Oak Park south and then turn, you can't turn left. Yeah, you can turn left on
South Boulevard. It's by the 7-Eleven, right? The 7-Eleven.
If the 7-Eleven is still there.
Oh, no, it
I'm
might
just
not
wondering.
be.
Is it?
I'm not sure anymore, actually.
I don't either. But yeah, if you go east, you'll see it. The Oak Park hires. Did you get paid, or is it?
I did get paid. Yeah, the stipend.
So they get a little stipend for creating a mural. Kathy Kucha has one up. Another graduate from West, Nez.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they have a few.
Nez is the painting in your kitchen.
I do. I bought one of her paintings. Yeah, she had a little studio space.
It's a girl, Nez.
Yeah. Quite a few people have done it. I know someone that actually is a part of the chamber currently. He did one just this last summer as well. So it's really cool that there's a mix of folks that are saw it and winged it, and other people who do art for a living and stuff like that. So it kind of shows in the variation of design and stuff like that for they have displayed there. So yes, I do have a couple murals around town. I kind of have been a little bit on a pause on that, just because that for me is my like love project, right? Like I've connected with like business owners, proposed ideas and concepts with what they kind of envision, and I found myself in a couple of instances like just parting ways and suggesting other folks, because if this is my free time of what I do, like I am working 9 to 5 and then working 5 to like 10 on these sort of things. I want to be really passionate of what I'm making, right? This is my time to be in control of that. So that's where I think people differ in a little bit, right? Of like, if they end up not pursuing art as a professional like career, they do it during the day. They can still have a hobby that they can profit from every once in a while, and have a lot more control and say of what that looks like if that is what drives them.
Yeah. So you really just, I heard you saying that you made the proposal and you're kind of putting yourself out there, and that's really a big part of being an artist, isn't it?
It is, and it's super hard that one of the learning curves is how to talk to people who aren't in the field, right? How to talk to clients that, are the one with the budget or the one with the idea, the space, but they don't have the willingness, or they just don't have the grasp of what, the intentions are of the design, or, rules of art, I guess you could say, and stuff like that, and what's possible or not. Like, I remember this one client like showed me like, can you just make this? And I'm like, that's someone else's work. Like, I'm not going to just copy and paste this. You know what I mean? And I was super lucky that everyone that I've worked with so far, I was approached either by people who have seen my work and really loved it, or they just trusted me and let me do what I wanted to do, which happened at the Berwyn Public Library. It was really cool to do a 180 of like, I used to work here to now I'm getting paid to make a mural or to paint a mural here. And especially since it was in the adult learning lab, which was originally, when I was a child, the children's room. So it was in the space that I used to play in.
So
the
you grew up with it. It grew up with you.
Exactly. So that was like such a special moment for me, and like made me so happy. The first one that I did was at a place called Medianoche. It's a Puerto Rican restaurant in the Depot area of Berwyn, and that's her first business, and she loves it so much, and she like cares for it a lot. And she's a baker as well, and she makes amazing food. We had always bonded really well, so for her to also trust me, like all of them have been really beautiful experiences in that way. So to now have clients who aren't familiar with my work, but then expect me to just go with a certain art style and stuff like that, just doesn't work for me, and I'm okay with that, because I don't have to live off of this. It's just something I do for fun. I really don't charge as much as I should, but it's because it is my passion project, right? And so that also dictates when I'm like considering if I want to, work on a project or not. So
do you have some kind of formula or something that you use that helps you figure out what to charge people?
Yeah, definitely. I do like square footage, and then I go from a range of, how like basic the colors or the detail work is to the highest, and then I do a discount for nonprofits because I feel like that's the right thing to do. And something that I've actually been considering to doing is like a free mural for an organization and some sort of thing like that, because I don't know, that's just the stuff I like to do. I like to give back in a way that feels right. So I'm actually part of a Rotary for Oak Park, and we're working with a place that's called Kids Express, and it's for lower income students in the Austin, and they needed some sort of like to liven up the space that they're in. They've already received like funding to give them a whole new computer space and stuff like that, but they feel like they don't have the essence of like youth in their space.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm, giving my service and my professional like abilities to supervise them and kind of show them like to have their families come in and they're going to paint a mural for the outside and stuff like that. So that's the sort of stuff that brings me a lot of joy and feels like I'm doing something bigger than myself, but using what I love.
And that gives kids a sense of ownership.
Oh, yeah.
They will, as long as it stays up, that will be their space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important.
So in thinking about high school, Michelle, is there anything that you could go back, or if you could go back in time, would you say something to her or try to encourage her to practice something more, or is, just any advice you would give high school Michelle?
Yeah, I think something I would definitely like tell myself is that I would encourage to reach out more to like the adults in my life, like whether it's a teacher that really cared for you and that you had like a good rapport with, or a counselor that you really appreciated and that felt like they were good at giving you touch points throughout your time at high school. I feel like that would help, because I think that's probably the hardest thing for high school students is to feel swamped at some points, right? To feel the anxiety and to feel the pressure, but then also feel very prideful or stubborn of like, I can figure it out and dig myself out of it. And
so ask for help.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably like the first thing that would definitely come to mind.
Okay, good. How about artists or emerging artists trying to make their way, whether it's in murals or in design work?
I think it's, from my own experience, it's like a humbling one, where there's nothing wrong with being the assistant to someone else's work who's painting, right, their murals. Or like at the Berwyn Development Corporation, I was, basically a receptionist, right, the chamber coordinator, and I had to prove myself in order to become the graphic designer for the organization when that person chose to leave, right? And I knew that since I didn't have a degree to showcase my abilities, right, like I had to earn that right. And I think that's what makes the end goal that much more fruitful, because you really worked hard towards it. So I would say like one of the biggest things is for sure is just to, if you are in capacity to offer free work just so that you can have your work out there, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't expect to think you're going to be front page of a magazine, you know what I mean, with your first things and stuff like that. And of course, like, artists deserve to get paid for their work and all of that, but I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have those experiences. And they did teach me a lot, right? They taught me of where I feel like it is worthwhile giving back, which is why I do like to do that for nonprofits. And then secondly is like, no one's going to know what you love to do unless you let people know, right? Like when I had the opportunity to work and to create that mural for the library, it's because they all knew that I loved to paint and to draw and to do all these things. And so one of the librarians there recommended me when they were considering to do put up artwork in one of those spaces. So you have to be your own advocate of knowing that opportunities are not going to fall in your lap. You have to really either create them or go out there and find them.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask one of the questions that we've been asking that really, since I've been gone for a long time, but, you know, the fun aspect of high school, and I think art classes afford the situation of a little bit more fun than some. When you think back to your art class and maybe you know, to high school in general, but what music do you think of that was like the soundtrack to your high school career?
Oh.
Because Mr. A dances a lot, much to our dismay.
Yeah. No, that's what made it fun, right?
But dude, can you think of anything you just really connect with high school, a song that even somebody as old as me might possibly know?
That you played, like she played in
or you were listening to
whatever.
in your, because I feel like I remember seeing you drawing with headphones, wearing headphones. It could be in my imagination, but I just feel like I saw that.
We definitely, like, I remember, like, especially in AP art, like, when we had deadlines, we were, do not talk to me, I am trying to figure this out. I don't know, actually. I feel like you played a lot of, like, non-lyrical, like, more instrumental, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you tried to lean towards that way so that it wouldn't be so distracting.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, because I think that we had a lot of varying
personalities.
Yeah, that and like, right, and genres that we were interested in, because like for us, like myself, like, and the people that I was surrounded in that table was like trap music, like very hard rap.
Yeah.
Was the time very trendy, like so. But for myself, I can say is that when it comes to, it's kind of a weird thing that when I work on a piece, there is one song that I'm dedicated to, and so it is on a loop. So like I can tell you from one art piece to another, like what song is for that.
That's interesting.
I love that. That's what I was hoping. I mean,
yeah, it's very. Do you know when you find the something?
Yeah.
And so you're like, you don't want to lose it if the next song shifts the mood or the direction of something. So
what were some of the songs that you remember for anything really? It doesn't have to be high school or.
I listen to a lot of like, I guess like cowboy music.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? America? That one group? A horse?
Back in the day.
Yeah. A horse with no name.
Been through the desert.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's I can't stand that guy's
oh no, I love him.
Neil Young?
No, it's not Neil Young. It's America.
Really? Oh gosh, I always thought it was
Sister Golden Hair Surprise.
That's a good one too. Ventura Highway. That's a great one. Yeah, I listen to a lot of that stuff.
I mean, I know these songs. I'm just very surprised.
What about Dancing in the Moonlight? I love that song.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. My mom was like a really big like ABBA fan. So I think that's kind of what streamlined me to that.
Okay. So. We were influenced by our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Whatever music was available, because we couldn't stream, so you had to like listen to what your parents had, right?
Yeah, I told her it was hypnotizing music, because I'm like, it's forcing me to sing the song, because I guess I was too little to be like, I like my mom's music.
I listened to my mother's Helen Reddy and Neil Diamond and Barry Manilow records. Mm-hmm.
That is cool though.
Yeah.
This is totally different, but I was telling Max, my oldest son, that you might not know this song, Ice Ice Baby.
Yes, Vanilla Ice.
Everybody's got to know that.
He had a home renovation show for a while.
He did. Mm-hmm. But when Max was an infant, and I had a sabbatical and I was in grad school, but I still had a tiny baby, and I would be up at 3 a.m. with him and he was difficult. And I just remember the only thing that would calm him down is when I would watch MTV with the sound on really low, and when Ice Ice Baby came on, I would dance him around the house.
That's funny.
And then he would go,
what?
So it's just like when you connect a song with, you know, an event. But I listen to so many things on loops because I don't want them to end. I mean, I could do 15 times in a row more.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah.
So does he now have an affinity for?
No, but when I was telling that
or?
story, we did put it on. We did watch the video.
Yeah.
I think it holds up.
I think it does too.
I have to watch. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh,
he's very entertaining.
You are in for a treat.
Super entertaining.
I can only imagine the way that he's dressed.
Yes.
And the stripes in the eyebrow and the stripes in the hair. I want you to text me when you watch it.
I will. I think that would be so.
I bet she'll be watching it on loop for like a day.
Oh.
And the last word to your mother.
Did he really?
Believe so. If it's not the end, it's almost the end.
Right. Oh, it's been a long time since I've heard that song,
gosh.
but I love that. Word to your mother.
But songs and art, you know, I mean, songs and visual arts. I really don't think there's too much of a demarcation. You know?
Totally. It's really cool how, like, some people can even, like, see colors, right? To certain songs.
That's synesthesia.
That is fascinating.
It is.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah. I do not have that.
I'm actually, I sound like I'm old, but I've been in this class for 5 years, long story. But there's these 6 people in the class, I know their work so well, and they're so good. There are certain times where I look at Cher Kamen's work and I can smell it.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Oh.
She does.
I have things like that too, where a scent will come to mind.
From a visual.
Yeah.
And with one of the other people in my class, she's been working on a series of telephone wires for 5 years.
Oh, gosh.
And they're magical. You can hear the hum of the energy going through the wires.
Right.
Anyway, but that's what music and visuals, I think. The other thing is we were saying is how lucky are we
to be artists?
That we are,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take it for granted.
No. Yeah. I don't either.
What would have become of me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels really cool that, like, you can strip me of, like, any fancy paints and material. Like, I will find my way to...
You'll Abe Lincoln it.
Yes.
Chalk on a shovel.
Absolutely. I will draw on the sand and make my little piece. Like, it's just something that you just, like, breathe in.
And I'm feeling like we're so lucky, and there's a little arrogance to it, but I'm sad for people that go through life that don't have some all-consuming need.
I have something to follow that up with. So when you look out my windows here, when I walked into this place, I fell in love with this view of the rooftops. It's a apartment building, but the colors of pink and brown and blue within the metals and the concrete in contrast with the sky, and then being able to see the colors of the church and the green roof. And I loved it so much, and it felt like Europe to me. And I was talking to my chiropractor weeks ago, something about looking at different spaces, and he goes, oh, I remember looking at a place in that building, actually. And it was on the 5th floor, and I was overlooking, it was just too many rooftops. And I was like, that was I said, was that in January? Or I figured out the timeline, and he goes, yes. And I go, that's my place. That's my apartment. Wow. I love that view. And I felt so sad for him that he only saw ugly rooftops, but I can look at it and see all these beautiful colors.
That series of paintings you did that might have been for your master's?
Yeah.
you moved into one of your paintings.
Basically, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like that's one of, well, that's after, and I never really finished it, but I like it unfinished. But yeah, I use that color palette a lot, green, blue, and that brick pink kind of color in most of my works.
So it like subconsciously was like fitting in your...
Yeah, and I
It's
think
your
it
final
came
piece.
from, you know, when I was a kid, I think a lot of parents do this, but my dad liked driving around and looking at houses and talking about architecture. And I liked doing that too. And part my graduate, if you called it a concentration,
Right.
like we did in AP, it was about those spaces that we drive by and seeing the passage of time through decay and building up and remodeling and things like that.
That sounds like a really interesting subject to like explore.
Yeah, the AP program is really interesting. I spoke about this with Hansel last week too. They called it concentration when you were in school, and I cannot remember your concentration. What?
I did it for 2 years, so I know that my last one was like retro-y, glitchy art.
Yeah.
And then the first one was kind of just all over the place. It wasn't. I didn't have enough experience at that
You were
time to
young.
really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for juniors, I think. So now they've restructured it, and I think for the better. So they call it an investigation, and it's inquiry based, where you have a guiding question, and so you are constantly researching things. And the thing about AP is they want to see practice, experimentation, and revision. And there's reflection involved too. And I've really taken a lot of that structure to just apply to trying to figure out how to make a podcast, even like the reflection process. And this is practice, and we're going to have to revise our format and everything. And it also, I mean, I think that's life. For us, we're constantly practicing and experimenting and revising our lives and what we do. And I hear that with you, like how you're constantly practicing, you're revising, you're throwing yourself out there and experimenting. And
Totally.
I find it very valuable.
I think so. I think that's what makes it fun, right? Is that you can, and like as the same thing as like just an artist, that you don't have to stick to one medium, right? Like you can explore what you did. And I'm sure a lot of artists, whatever they did in high school looks nothing like what they do now. So
absolutely. Oh, and questions. And this is something I learned from my mentor. I remember you saying very frequently, I remember you saying, ask good questions. It's very important to ask good questions. And I don't think I really understood that so much. You know, like what's the point? What do you mean questions? Like there is a difference between asking good questions and just asking questions just to ask them. Right. So that you know, how do we make this podcast better? How do we make our guests feel more comfortable? How do we flow better? Right. You know, those kinds of questions will only help us get better. And
you know,
I borrowed that from AP and my mentor.
You know what, we have been really lucky, and what makes us good? Phenomenal guests.
Isn't she great?
Jeez.
I know.
I don't know. I was like, I hope this is like beneficial.
I mean, it's
I'm sitting here listening to her, and I'm just like, oh my God, I love this kid so much.
Aww.
She's so great. She's so great.
Like you have the wisdom of Confucius and Buddha and all sorts of.
Oh, come on.
In this tiny.
We
little,
like to give people compliments too here. It's our thing. You just have to take it.
I was telling Danny this morning when I was getting ready, I was like, I'm not used to like boasting about myself and like, look what I've achieved. And I'm like, but obviously it's kind of to give direction. I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking of it in the perspective of who is listening, right? Like who can this, even one portion can resonate with someone. And if they ever were to re-listen and revisit another portion, they're like, well, that kind of triggers an idea that I want to explore and put more thought into. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And hoping for it.
My husband does a lot of documentary work, and long story, but he's can be a little bossy. but he knows his stuff,
Right.
So one thing he said he wished he had learned, because he doesn't do it as much anymore. He does land speed motorcycle races at the Bonneville Salt Flats. He interviews, which is a strange little niche, but it's a cool niche. But he said he wished he had asked everybody at the end of the interviews, what question do you wish I had asked you? And I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here, but if you...
And you don't have to answer it now.
Not now, but since Lisa and I are learning, if because that could help, in the future. And, but, what question do you wish, or in reverse, is there a question you either found clunky or, what seemed to be a waste of time? But if there's, do you think asking about your, early years is invasive, or is it okay? But I have found that people in the arts start earlier than one would think, for the most part.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah. And I think it comes from that feeling too. Like I remember that feeling of other kids also just going, oh, that's really good. And you're like, oh, I must be good. I'm going to keep doing it then.
Yeah.
And it could go the other way. Some ignorant person can come along and be like, that looks dumb. and they're 8. And yet you're taking these words from an 8-year-old to mean that you're not good at art. And so you toss your artistic side away.
I used to do mean cartoons of nuns.
Really?
And then kind of like brought them up, but I also got laughs.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I feel like you were funny. Oh gosh. Okay, so I have to share this memory of Michelle that still makes me laugh sometimes when I think about it. Do you know what I'm talking about? On my bike.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I was riding my bike from West to Pilsen, where I was living at the time.
Which, now that I think about it, is crazy.
It is crazy.
How many miles was that?
That was a lot. It was way too many miles. It took me way too long. It would take like an hour. Yeah.
Is it kind of dangerous busy?
On the way back, it was bad. On the way home, on the way there in the morning, I would say like in the morning, the wind is calmer and it doesn't seem as busy. But on the way home, people are more of jerks because they're in a hurry. And it's Cermak basically the whole way. I lived off of Cermak and Western, so it was a straight shot. But I was still in Berwyn, and I'm like, just getting going, and I hear, DeRay? And I looked across the street, and there's Michelle, and she is laughing her ass off, like,
I because it's so weird to see like your teachers like in outside settings that you weren't expecting,
especially on a bike, I guess.
Yeah, and I was just like, I was so mind blown. I'm like, I can't imagine the disservice I would do for myself of having to deal with rotten kids all day and then have to exercise my way all the way back, because I knew you lived in Pilsen.
Yeah.
So I was like, I
should have thrown that bike on the bus or the train for most of the ride. There was another moment when I don't know if it was on Instagram or something, when you posted a picture of yourself drinking a smoothie, and you're like, that moment you realize you're eating like your art teacher.
Hey, listen, yeah. I remember your big celery stalk and then dipping it in the hummus, be like, okay, bring out your assignments. It's time for blah, blah, blah.
They used to make fun. I was going through this juicing thing with just green juices, basically. And they were always like, what are you drinking? Is that guacamole? Are you drinking guac? I'd be like, no.
But
it's healthy.
It sure is. You were we had such a nice exposure of I'm first generation Mexican, so like, you were my like American mom, you know? Like I don't know.
But toward the end of my teaching there, I had no fucks to give, and I would send kids out in the morning if they were late. They knew they were going to be late. Things went better for them if they brought me an horchata.
Oh, I love that. I would bring them every time.
Here you go.
Are. Here's your little name with a heart on it.
So Michelle, this has been great.
Absolutely.
Let's see, if we wrote this as a movie, Michelle, the adventurous artist who stood up for herself and listened to her gut.
Thank you.
Played by Selena Gomez.
I'm actually
That'd
not a
be a
fan
good
of her.
one. I was going to say,
She's
who would play
cute.
your part then?
She's cute.
Why are you not?
I don't think she's that great of a singer or actress.
Oh.
You know, have you ever watched Only Murders in the Building?
That's the new one that she's in?
Yeah.
Or
My husband, he's always just like, she's the worst actress.
She's very dry. She's very dry.
Mumbly.
Who would play you?
Maybe, oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I know. They would always tell me this when I had my blonde hair in high school. Sam from Sam and Cat. I'm losing her name. She wrote that book called Thank God My Mom's Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's her name?
I forget.
Well, her.
Okay.
That would be her.
I have seen that book.
Jeanette McCurdy or something like that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
That'd be cool.
I can't conjure her up.
I can't either. I've seen the book and I'm interested
I heard
in
it's
it.
really good. It got 4 stars.
Did it?
It's
yeah.
a great book. Definitely recommend.
Okay.
Who plays you?
Oh, geez, I don't know. People tell me, Keira Knightley, I would be flattered if Keira Knightley played me. That would just be, you don't know who she is. I've had people tell me I remind them of Keira Knightley or, Robin Wright.
I was thinking Sandra Bullock.
Really?
That Nydia always thought I would be played by Sandra Bullock.
I could see that big, thick hair
I don't
and
see
beautiful
it visually,
eyes.
but I can kind of see she seems to be a little clumsy at times in her roles, and I've broken so many bones.
Well, there you go.
It's a given. But also I could be Sandra Bullock's mother.
Oh, stop.
No,
Yeah, literally you could. Yeah, that's true.
I could be your mother.
Because she could, yeah. I could be your mother.
I don't even know how old Sandra Bullock is. So.
She's around my age. I think maybe a little younger, a couple of years younger. I think. I don't know. Well, thank you so much for helping us.
Thank you so much.
It's been so great.
Now, the only sad thing for me is I lose contact. I'll never see her again.
Well, you do. You can connect with her
Are we going to have
on
a
social
reunion
media,
at some point?
and probably, like she was even telling me, have guests come back because, the first time might be great, but the second time might be better.
Plus, that's where if there were questions you think we should have asked you,
Yeah,
that would help us a lot.
That's probably the only time I was stumped where I was like, I'm not really sure. I haven't thought about it, but yeah, I would love to give any feedback. But I think it was fun. It was great.
Awesome. That was fun.